Let's do this.
Well, greetings. This is Bruce Armstrong and Betty Frick. We are volunteers with the Longmont Senior Computer Tech Center, or SCTC, and this is a continuing group of videos that are discussing some of the more common Google apps, Google Docs, Google Sheets, and Google Slides, and we're concentrating on Google Sheets in this one, and this is the third of a group with that. But we are associated with the Longmont Senior Center, and we help seniors with all kinds of device technical questions and that kind of thing. And I'm going to show you a little bit of where we are in this series. We've gone through the introductions and some of the Google basics and Google Docs, and gone through some of the real basics of Google Sheets and how to do those. And now we're going to get into some of the formatting issues and using functions and formulas. Those are some of the most powerful things that you can do in Google Sheets when you're dealing with numbers and even text information. So that's where we're going on this one. I think I'll just jump right into it, because this is, we've sort of introduced this in the prior two videos on this, but again, I'm going to start out here in google.com, which is kind of the easiest place, and I'm going to get into a different Google account that I have, a different Gmail account. Typically, it will show, if you're signed in, it'll have the little letter, or some people put pictures up here, but I don't put my picture up here. And we'll go into Google Apps, and we will go to Google Sheets. Now, I've got a spreadsheet, again, that I've started out. It's called Untitled Spreadsheet. I'm going to rename it just for fun here, just show you how that's done. I'm going to call it Test Workbook. Whoops. Boy, my typing is wrong.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you
Doesn't have spell check, doesn't do automatic
no, it doesn't.
corrections.
Oh, by the way, that's an aside here that's kind of interesting, is that Microsoft now has a new addition to their spell check that they call it, they don't call it this, but people are calling it their wokeism, in that it corrects you for political correctness.
Oh my. Can you turn it off?
Yes, you could turn it off. It is an option, but
You have to tell me.
I have a friend that got really upset about that. So.
You have to tell me how afterwards, Bruce.
Yes, yes, but I don't know that Google has gone that far yet. But we're getting into a point here. We're going to talk about some of the more powerful things that you can do. And I'm just going to run across the top here, just this toolbar where we have the redo and undo arrows, the print, paint format. You can zoom the size of the screen. You can do formatting of, say, I wanted these to be, let's go up to the top here, and I'm going to highlight all these that I typed in here that had numbers, and I'm going to make them dollar signs. You can reformat everything. I can change the number of decimal points if I like. I can add decimal points. And then there's more formats. You can go accounting, which is really a little bit different than just having the dollar sign, in that it puts the dollar sign way on the left. And if you have negative numbers, it makes them red with parentheses around them, that sort of thing. So there's all kinds of formatting you can do. Financial, currency, different things. If you were doing pounds or cryptocurrency or something, they probably have a symbol too. Dates and times, those are pretty cool, in that you can, here's just a column that I have some months in it. And if we right click on one of the, well, wait a minute, we go to formats, and we're going to say date.
Yeah, it didn't change it because it,
No, it didn't. I'm trying to remember. Dates are funny because
Yeah.
this is a little tidbit, is dates are not stored as text. They are stored as a number, where the number is the number of days since, I think it's January 1st, 1990. And then the decimal point is actually the time on that date. So if I were to put in here January 1, 2022, and if I were to go to format and say I want that as a number, it's 44,562 days since whatever date that was.
whoa.
So if you think you got a date and it comes up a number, you can go into this format tool and change it to a date. Where is this? Text, number, date.
Yeah, really.
Yeah. And you can pick how you display a date. I mean, you may want it in 1 January 2022 or January 1, 2022. There's all kinds of different things. And, you know, if you have 2/1/2022 as the next one, and I think I shared this in the last video, you can highlight those, drag and drop them. Whoops, I went too far. I need to get it on that little square and drag it down, and it progressively adds a month to each
Boy, is that
one.
handy. Whoa.
It is very handy because way back in the beginning in spreadsheets, you had to say cell number E3, the first one, plus 30 days or 31 days or whatever.
Bruce.
Crazy.
Oh
But
my.
it's a very handy sort of thing. But formatting is something you can really play around with. The formats, we can do percentages, you can do scientific, as I said, accounting, financial, and currency rounded, which we did just by subtracting the number of decimal places. Dates and times, date and time. If we did the date and time, it's going to show up as 00 because I didn't put in a time.
Interesting.
But dates and times are a difficult one. And especially, an example, if I went to a website, and I'm going to pick on the Census Bureau, and they have some really, really, really huge spreadsheets out there in text format. They're not in a spreadsheet format, but they're in a plain text rows and columns kind of thing. And you can download those or bring them into like Google Sheets or into Microsoft Excel. And if you do it one way, it just assumes, again, Bill Gates rides again, they've decided that I'm going to look at this column and I say, it looks like a number, or it looks like a date. And you've got to know that sometimes a date will come in as text and it won't come in as a date. And they're two different things, because dates you can do mathematical operations on, but a text thing you can't. Okay, so that's kind of some of the stuff up here. You could do fonts. You could change the fonts to something else. You can pick any kind of font you want in your spreadsheet. You can size it, the font size, to any size you want. You can bold it. You know, if I want something, let me just pick a cell here. I can bold it. The February bolded, or I can italicize it, or both. I can strike through. That's something Microsoft does not have, but
Oh,
just
yeah.
as interest, you can do it, but it's a more difficult thing. It's not up on the main toolbar. Or you can change the color. You can pick a color, make it red if you like. You can fill the cell with a color. You can create borders. Let's say we take some of this data and we want a border. We can have all borders. Let's just do around the outside, okay? And this transfers to your printing. This is just a heads up. When you print a spreadsheet, you've got some rows and column lines on here. They're not going to appear on your printout unless you actually create borders.
Mm.
You can change the border color. You can change the style. We can make it dots if we want. There's all kinds of cool stuff you can do with it. You can, now this is one I hesitate to tell you too much about in this, but you can merge cells. Like if I wanted to put a big, long title with lots of words at the top, and I want that to be centered over this whole bunch of data that I've got here, I can highlight all of that. This data is only in this cell B1 right now. But if I want to merge the cells, it makes a single cell. And then some of these other things, the horizontal aligns, I want to center it, I can center it. But that causes a problem with spreadsheets and sums and that kind of thing, because this first row is a different animal than the rest of the stuff. And sometimes you have to account for that kind of thing. But that's something you can do. There are merge vertically, horizontally, or unmerge. I've already done this. You can do different alignments, left justified, centered justified, or right justified. You can change the vertical alignment. You can change the text wrapping. That's where, we went to format and wrapping, but there's another way. It's up on the toolbar here. You can rotate text if you really want to get clever and creative. Here's where I can insert a link. Say over here, I want to insert a link, and I say, I call it Google. And here is the link. It's www.google.com. And we apply it.
Wow.
Then it comes up as a link. And so a clickable link that you could do anything you wanted to with it, that you could put in a spreadsheet and people could go to a link that may be an explanation of your spreadsheet or something. You can insert a comment. You can insert charts. You can create a filter. And over here, this is one that I really like, is the function one. You can, I think we talked about in the last video, you can do, over here I have a function, average of B2 to B14. That's the generic format of a formula. But some formulas have more than two things, not just a range. They may have all kinds of things. But you can look down here and say all. And let's just run through this just to show you how crazy it is. Absolute value, accrued interest of security with periodic payment.
Oh my gosh.
Accrued interest of security payment at maturity. Inverse cosine of a value in radians. Create reference as a string in an address. Add sum of two numbers. Depreciation for an accounting period. If you want to get into this kind of detail, I gotta tell you to buy a book, because there's so much stuff you can do with all these functions. But the common ones are these up at the top: sum, average, count. That's really a good one. It counts how many populated spaces are in a particular group of cells, the maximum and the minimum. Those are probably the most common ones used. And all you have to do, you don't have to put it just below it, but we could say, let's go over here, and I'm going to say, and this is a little trick up here in the top row here. This is what you're going to be typing. So I just click on that blank space, and I'm going to say equals sum, parentheses open, and then I'm going to take my mouse and go down here to this cell, and I'm going to hold it down till I get to the bottom. And then I'm going to hit my close parentheses. And it put the sum over here. It doesn't have to be right with the data, but if you start it right with the data, it makes assumptions about what data you're talking about. But you can put it anywhere. Now, this is another thing, is that I sort of alluded to this in the last video, but I'm going to highlight the column. Now I'm going to hide it. Why would I want to hide a column? Can you think of a reason, Betty?
Well, there's information in there that you don't want the other person to know.
Okay, that's one good thing. Another is, if you are the technical specialist for an organization and you don't want the user messing with the data that you have put in there.
Got it.
You hide it.
Sweet.
Now, what you do to get.
Can you make it permanent? I mean, if they can figure out that it's hidden, can't they get it back?
There are some locking things you can do in a spreadsheet. There are more advanced things you can do. You can lock a spreadsheet so that nobody can mess with it.
Okay.
I can hide it, and if I, right down here at the bottom, I have sheet one. If I had a set, when you do Microsoft Excel, you automatically get 3 sheets: sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3.
Right.
Here you only get 1. You can add them. By just hitting the plus button. But I can go into the sheet, right click on it, and say hide sheet.
Oh.
So if you got a whole bunch of stuff in a sheet that's used in a calculation or something, and you don't want people to see all of that, you can hide the sheet. Now, if you look, it's not there, sheet hidden. All editors of the spreadsheet can view and unhide sheets. So if I go in here and I say, let's see, all sheets, I can click on sheet 2 and unhide it. So that's kind of some of the formatting stuff that you can do, playing around with stuff. There are a variety of things. Can you think of some other things you'd want to do that I haven't?
No, but I was going to say that depending upon what people need for any of this, any kind of technology like this, there's a lot of information out on the internet, some very good and some not so good. You got to watch for a date. Usually what I try to do is look for a date. If it's like 2007, it probably, there's been changes, big changes since then. So.
Exactly. There is actually a website called, I think it's just called data.gov.
Okay.
And at that website, this was back in the Obama administration, they put out there all the public databases of information. And you would be just shocked at how much information there is about finances and, populations and that kind of stuff. But the one that I went to a lot was census.gov.
Mhm.
And that one is one that contains tables of all kinds of things that were taken in the US Census. And it's amazing how much information you can get. You can get, historical data on a specific county and what the population of Latino and population of whites and population of income by income and all kinds of crazy stuff that you can find out there. And you can throw it right into a spreadsheet and delete the columns that you don't want to use. And you've got the data you want to use, and it's a reliable source. It's powerful, and there's a lot of stuff out there.
And it makes you look smart, which is one of our goals at SCTC.
Yes, and there's another thing. I was just going to show some of the things up at the top here. You can insert a. Let me just pick this stuff here, and I'm going to highlight it, and then I'm going to insert a chart.
Oh my.
It creates the chart for me.
Okay, Bruce, does Excel do that too?
Yes, Excel does that. And you can put it like here, it's stuck it right in the middle of the spreadsheet.
Way cool.
But in the chart editor, you can say, we can move it, but it's got all kinds of stuff about, you can name the x-axis, you can add a series, you can
Wow.
customize it, you can put it somewhere else. It can do some really neat stuff. And you can do stuff like, I don't know, data. Okay, they tell me there's something new here. Data. I can do column stats, data validation, data cleanup. I can do a lot of interesting stuff. I'm trying to find it on here. I know it's in Excel, but you can do a linear regression on a series of data,
Oh my.
And have it figure out what the average growth of your stock is or something. You can do all kinds of stuff like that, but it's a really handy sort of a thing.
You're making my head explode.
Well, I don't want to go too deep into this stuff because that would be something that would be very specific to something somebody wanted to do. Now, if you're doing your shopping list or you're doing your library books or keeping track of your passwords or something like that, that's one thing. But managing the growth of population in ABC County and XYZ state, it's a whole different animal. Dealing with it, but you've got the capabilities when you've got the data in here. So,
okay.
And I hesitate to say, but did you have any other questions? That
No. One more piece of information, and my head will explode on the video, and that's not a good thing.
Well, I appreciate you helping me on this, and
thanks.
we will start on the Google Slides in the next set of issues. So
great.